I'm going to pull a bit of a Melkor here and ask you a question. Tolkien stories are often about races overreaching. You know, the dwarves dig too deep, the elves get too full of themselves, they get absolutely owned by their own hubris. And this morning I'm talking with all the different racial groups from Middle-earth. So I'm curious as to what you as a fan think. Which race is the most problematic in terms of, which one makes the most mess in terms of the story? Who is to blame for what is to come on this show?
Well, they all represent different facets of our own flawed humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to point a finger at someone, probably the elves, because it all starts with them. It starts with Feanor and the jewels in the first stage, and then the Oath of Feanor and declaring war and having the elves leave Valinor. That starts kind of all the problems, and then everything sort of tumbles downhill from there. Even the things in the second age are sort of a response to some of the things that happened in the first stage. But you know, really, the sort of commonality amongst all of them is this fear of fading.
Yeah.
You know, it comes back to a fear of death. I mean, for the elves, it's a very long, slow thing that can happen. But for humans, it's much more immediate. But a fear of losing the status quo. Even the dwarves are digging deep because they want to sort of protect themselves with wealth. So people's fear of losing what they have pushes them to deeper into the darkness.
Yeah, if only that were a good analogy for what we're living through right now. Who causes the most trouble in Middle-earth?
Could we answer it as our character?
Yeah.
My character's not a big fan of elves.
Right, okay.
I think she blames them for taking one of her brothers away.
Sure.
And, both. They take both of my brothers away.
Answering not as a character, you'd have to say elves because of Feanor, I think. Ultimately, his initial decisions with the Silmarils and to start the war with Melkor is why we are at. But I mean, if you want to be atheist, you go back to Iluvatar and have a good old go at it. And say,
I cannot say how much I appreciate these deep cuts. They're great. Feanor, massive dick. I'm very curious because we're talking about races, and I've been interviewing each race from Middle-earth, right? And I've been trying to pull a Morgoth and sow dissent between all the different people. And it's working really well. And so far, everyone agrees that the most problematic race in Middle-earth are the elves.
That's interesting.
Yeah, would you agree with that assertion?
Problematic.
Just causing problems, I mean, because this series is not going to end well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out who is the most responsible. Yes, that's true. Who is the most responsible for the terror that's about to pan out over the series?
Oh, goodness me. Do you know, it's interesting.
No spoilers, of course.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because...
It's not you, is it?
No. Actually,
Well,
I don't
actually...
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I do stir up a bit of trouble unnecessarily that does lead to
within our
unnecessary
tribe.
danger.
Within our
tribe.
within our community.
Okay.
I think we could point the finger a little bit.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Which race is the most trouble?
I have a good answer.
Oh.
I think those with the most power are the most responsible.
Sure. Yeah.
So the Southlanders have never really had that much power.
Yeah.
So I would say it's either the elves or the Númenóreans.
Okay.
I think it's got to be the elves.
Elves.
Celebrimbor. I mean,
It's
you
gotta
made
be-
the
yeah,
rings,
you can't,
mate.
exactly. Yeah, you're going down, Celebrimbor.
Yeah, I talked to JD Payne, and he threw the elves under the bus as well.
Yeah, elves. It's got to be the elves.
Yeah. The bloody elves. I've been talking to every other race across this press junket, and when I ask them the source of all the evils in Middle-earth, they always throw the elves under the bus.
Yeah.
Would you like to raise a hand in defence, or?
I mean, it depends which age you're looking at, but I have to agree, especially with the first age. I mean, that's what I love about elves, is that they are so many things that we think they are not.
Right.
They betray each other. Every major elven kingdom pretty much in the first age is destroyed by itself in some way.
Yeah.
So, I would have to agree.
Yeah, and he says never go to the elves for counsel, for they will say yes and no.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, sure.
Unpredictable, duplicitous.
That's so sweet. I thought you'd have a bit of a thing in your
We
heart.
love
for
them too.
Yeah.
Of course we do.
I mean, there's also Sauron, the Dark Lord, and Morgoth.
You kind of got the edge.
They're not the worst.
They might be pretty bad too.
Yeah. Okay.